Well, hey, church family, you made it to the last day of our week of prayer and fasting for 2024, where we are focused on my heart, his house. God actually wants to make his home in your heart so that you could feel and experience the reality of his presence in your day to day. Today, we're focused on verses 14 and 13 of Psalms 27, or verses 13 and 14. And look at what David says. He says, I would have lost heart unless I had believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. And then he says, wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. He shall strengthen your heart. I want to talk to you about the strength of heart. I love that David starts off by saying that he would have lost heart, that he would have lost heart. And he acknowledges the reality of his situation and the normal response to the reality of his situation and his circumstance, which is what? To lose heart. And then he says, hey, I would have reacted normally to my circumstances and my situations unless I had believed. You know what that tells me? That our belief actually gets us to respond to circumstances and situations in a way that the normal and average person who does not know Jesus does not respond. And so if the normal way to respond to a discouraging situation is to lose strength and be disheartened, then our faith allows us to have a response that is not normal to our circumstances and situations. And we can actually continue to believe God, and we can continue to hope in God. He says, I would have lost heart unless I had believed. And so he was believing that he would see the goodness of the Lord. And so what are we putting our faith in? We're putting our faith in the fact that no matter our circumstances and our situations, that out of this, we will see the goodness of God. We will see the goodness of God. And can I tell you that you will see the goodness of God? As you continue to put your hope in him, as you continue to put your faith in him, your heart will be strengthened. And then David says this. He says, wait on the Lord. Waiting is one of the hardest things I think anyone ever has to do. I don't know if you've ever been in a lineup where you've had to wait, and it is so frustrating. And so waiting is not easy. And when you're waiting for the Lord, you know that God is going to do what is good. But when you're waiting for him to do that thing, it sometimes can feel like eternity. But there's a way to wait. There is a way to wait. He says, as you wait, be of good courage. In other words, have the right perspective in mind. Don't let the waiting disorient you. That God is still good, that God still has a plan, God still has a hope and a future for you. Don't let the waiting throw off the reality of who God is. And so be of good courage in your waiting. And watch what he says next. When you wait for God and you're of good courage in your waiting, when you're waiting the right way, then he will strengthen your heart. Man, I love that. You know what I also love is that in the waiting, we actually acknowledge our limitations. You only have to wait for God if you cannot do what God can do. If you could do what God could do, you wouldn't have to wait for him. But the moment you acknowledge that you're waiting for God, you're acknowledging your own limitations. You're saying, I cannot do in my own strength what God can do. And I love that. Because the moment we acknowledge our limitations, our weaknesses, we actually invite his strength. Isn't that what Jesus said to Paul the Apostle? That it is in your weakness that my power is made perfect. And so when you say you're waiting on the Lord, you're acknowledging, hey, I can't do this on my own strength. I need the strength of God. I need God to do what only he can do. And as you acknowledge your weakness and your limitation, God sees that as an invitation to step in, to do what only he can do. And that is what strengthens your heart, to know that God not only goes before you, but he goes behind you, and he is waiting for you to invite him in as you wait for him and express your limitations and your weaknesses and invite the power of God, the strength of God into your life. And so I hope and I pray that right now you feel the strength of heart even within you. Even though your body might be growing old, even though you might not be getting the sleep you wanted, even though you're in the middle of fasting as you end off this week of prayer and fasting, maybe your body feels weak. I declare that your spirit shall be strengthened, your heart shall be strengthened as you wait on the Lord and be of good courage. God bless.